So when it seemed like the Shangwell Robinson case planned to reach a dead conclusion, some unusual new data as of late became visible that totally returned it and uncovered exactly how terrible the Cabo Six are and how they abused Shanquella. Furthermore, her family at long last approached and unveiled who really killed their darling princess. You additionally will have a hard time believing who this attacker is or the way in which they tried to delude and control Shanquella's family. So what was the new proof found that would ideally assist with shutting this grim case? That is the thing we're figuring out in this video. Obviously, before I spill anything, ensure first that you buy into our channel. Furthermore, hit the notice chime for additional updates and recordings like this. Presently, we should make a plunge. What did they tell you happened to our little girl? An examiner asked Shanquella's mom, which she addressed that she became ill from drinking it was liquor. And that is exactly the same thing they let the specialists know that originally treated Shanquella at the manor they were remaining at in days. After the fact, the family figured out that Shanquella's supposed companions deceived them directly to their countenances. So it's nearly been 5 months since Shanquella Robinson unfortunately died while on vacation with companions in Cabo, Mexico. And for some time there were considerations that the Cabo Six just could pull off murder. For quite a long time, the specialists wouldn't specify who specifically shut down Shanquella's life, guaranteeing that the examination was all the while progressing and could be compromised in the event that they uncovered excessively. Yet presently, we at last realize who truly did the wrongdoing now, due to how wrecked everything was. Shanquella's destruction turned into a virtual entertainment sensation. She ventured out to Cabo for a getaway, and after 24 hours she died. Her sidekicks at first made the case that she passed on from liquor harming, and they handed off this to Shanquella's family members on the off chance that they had let the specialist know what genuinely unfolded. Shanquella may in any case be alive. A police report from the day she died expresses visitors at the retreat called for clinical assistance, guaranteeing she had tanked a ton of liquor. She was statement stable, however got dried out, the specialist stated, adding that the guests wouldn't take her to the emergency clinic. The police report said she went into heart failure and was pronounced dormant at 6 p.m. However, at that point her dissection report recorded her reason for death as serious spinal string injury and Atlanta hub subluxation, which is a condition where temperamental or extreme development is available in the initial two vertebrae of the neck. And it recommended that Shanquella had been in a truly troubling circumstance. Strangely, the postmortem made no notice of liquor in her framework, and individuals have referenced that on the off chance that she had to be sure taken sufficient liquor to get liquor harming. It ought to have appeared on the postmortem anyway, when a video of Shanquella being whipped by one of her supposed companions turned into a web sensation via virtual entertainment things got truly warmed. Dejanay Jackson, one of her companions at Cabo, were thumping her. Different individuals from the companion bunch were there. However, they put forth no attempt to help Shanquella or stop Dejun Kilio Cook, who was intended to be her dearest companion, once even ridiculed her by saying, "Quella, could you basically battle at any point back? Can you essentially retaliate?" was potentially the one that drove Shanquella to her downfall. Yet specialists declined to authoritatively name her as the suspect, rather saying that the Cabo Six were people of revenue in the examination. Mexico likewise controlled the case to be a femicide and mentioned the removal of the gathering so they could confront the law in Mexico. Mexican specialists made an announcement saying this case is completely explained, saying we even have a court request. There is a capture warrant gave for the wrongdoing of femicide to the burden of the executioner, and against a supposed culprit, a companion of hers, who is the immediate victimizer. Really, it was anything but a squabble, yet rather an immediate hostility. We are doing every one of the relevant systems, for example, the Interpol ready, and the solicitation for removal to the U.S. of America. It's around 2 Americans, the executioner, and the guilty party. Even with this, the U.S. government appeared to be fragging its feet working on it, demanding that the examination had not yet been finished up well. It seems to be Shanquella's folks have had enough of this, and they've had their legal counselors send a letter to the White House requesting answers and imploring them to discover some arrangement. The fascinating thing about the letter is that the family at last uncovered who it was that the Mexican specialists had a warrant out for and shock they named as the attacker a piece of. The letter said the viral video showing Shanquella being beaten in the estate, while being recorded by one of the 6 travel mates who was distinguished by the observer as Dejana Jackson John Gello's body, experienced a head injury as per a post-mortem report composed on October 30, 2022 in Mexico by clinical inspector Dr. Galvin Escura, who discovered that Jonquilla's reason for downfall was a wrecked neck. The letter went on because of the examination Mexican policing a warrant for Dejane Jackson, one of the 6 partners in crime, who left the country after Shanquella was proclaimed departed. Shanquella Robinson was pronounced a survivor of femicide or orientation-based manslaughter if a U.S. resident carry out murder in Mexico and gets once again to the U.S. As you know, they can have to deal with criminal penalties in the U.S. under government regulation or state regulation, relying upon the conditions of the wrongdoing. So from this letter, we can perceive that her family is weary of not having a fair consequence given for their girl. The last part was them basically telling the U.S. government that on the off chance that you won't send them over to Mexico to confront equity around there, basically have them face equity here in America. And it's simply so unfortunate in light of the fact that no parent ought to at any point encounter the pain of losing their girl. And then, at that point, participating in an extended fight in court anyway. The letter likewise gave a few pristine revelations that represented exactly how horrible the Cabo 6 were an attendant at the property, where the gathering remained. Gave an observer statement to the family's lawyer, guaranteeing that Shanquella never really fit in the gathering from the very beginning. She appeared to not find a place with the others. When I presented myself, she didn't welcome me or grin. She was detached, nothing to do with the air of festivity. She was awkward at the party. The attendant stated this sort of proposes that the gathering was unfriendly towards Jonquilla. All along, yet that is as yet not the most horrendously terrible piece of it. Since even after Shanquella was articulated, departed, the gathering actually felt no kind of regret or even pain. The attendant uncovered that after she was articulated, he went up to the estate to give his sympathies to the gathering. He said, "I left that region and remained external the principal access to give them space to grieve and lament minutes. After the fact I heard chuckling. And that is not all. As per all records, Jackson messaged the attendant about supper hours after the fact, and he set up transportation for the gathering to San Jose. He later scholarly, anyway, that the gathering had ventured out to the air terminal. The attendant guaranteed that once Jackson's actual assault on her was caught on tape, he perceived that Jackson had really involved him as influence to escape the country as fast as potential. They didn't regret losing Shanquella when they found what they had done, and on second thought escaped from Mexico to the U.S. in the conviction that they wouldn't need to deal with their demonstrations once they showed up in the country, since they didn't imagine that the case would be exploded like this. Simply shows the amount they couldn't have cared less about Shanquella, and it makes sense of why many individuals feel like the situation could have been premeditated. Somebody remarked on a portion of the recordings flowing on YouTube, "This is shocking and ridiculous. The specialists realize who was there. They have a video of not a battle, and the wounds of fair consequence should be given everybody required from the executioner to the other people who held on and afterward concealed what happened should be secured, charged, and imprisoned." Someone else said, "I can't completely accept that this is as yet continuing, and I can't completely accept that no one, not one individual, who has been considered liable for this OK Harmony Shanquella. This is so terrible. Shanquella for sure merits equity, and as long as her purported companions are free, she and her family will not get the harmony that they merit that is supportive of us today. We truly want to believe that you partaken in the video, and on the off chance that you ensured you leave a like buy-in. And hit that notice ringer for additional recordings like this much obliged.